This video is part 2 of a playthrough of Blood on the Tigris from Strategy and Tactics number 176. And now we are up to turn 6. It's April 15th. The season is rainy, and what we see here happening is the British are moving on to their next objective, which is Amara. We have the 6th Division, led by General Townsend, that's moving his forces in that direction. He's trying to get some supply up there, and he's got 6 gunboats here, HMS Lewis and Simona, and then there's a couple of gunboats underneath it that are not visible, and then you've got some a little bit to the rear that are moving up, and because it's rainy weather, they have no problem navigating the Tigris. And there's a brigade that is defending just on the west side of the bridge at Amara that crosses the Tigris. There's an infantry brigade there. And then we also have the 38th Division is headquartered in the village, and they've got some supply in the rear as well. We then continue on to turn 7. This is May of 1915. It's still rainy overall for this turn. And what we have happening here is the 6th Division is attacking and defeating the Constantinople Brigade, which is defending near Amara on the bridge that crosses over. We also see our first use here of airplanes. So we have 2 Albatross airplanes which have intercepted 4 British bombers. And just of note, these Albatross airplanes were manned by German pilots, according to what I've read in history. And these airplanes represent 1 plane per counter. So there were not a lot of planes here. So it's kind of interesting how they've been introduced and the effects that they can have. So basically how air units work is that they are based basically off the headquarters unit. So they need to be within the command radius of a headquarters unit on their side. And then they can function outside of that radius. The aeroplanes also have a range at which they can fly once if they're activated. And in the picture, you see the Albatross planes of the Turks have an air range of 16, and the British airplanes have a range of 25, and they can never exceed that range on a mission, but if they're activated, they can be used, and they can go quite a long range. Basically, the movement points are 1 point per hex, regardless of the terrain, because they're flying. This is World War I and Iraq, so there's no anti-aircraft fire. That's pretty much means that they can get away with flying missions without any interference from the ground. They can be intercepted. Basically, the non-phasing player can intercept the phasing player, and the missions that can be done other than interception is bombing. So if you're going to have an attack, you may want to use air units to soften the target up a little bit. So when you look at the counters, the number on the left-hand bottom side of the counter is their air-to-air rating when they engage in air combat. The number on the right side is the bombing rating if they're flying a bombing mission. So you can see those Albatross airplanes are quite good. They're rated 2 for each, whereas the British planes are not. Anyway, the way these affect combat, if they make it through interception and can actually barrage or drop bombs on the target. What they simply are doing is adding their bomber rating to the attack factors. So in this case, if these British planes were to get through, they have a total of 4 bomb strength, and they would add that as if they were a 4 strength unit in the attack, and it affects the odds ratio. So on this turn, what ended up happening is that these Albatross Albatross planes were able to drive off the British, so they didn't really get to do their bombing mission as they are attacking here. So on turn 8, it's now June 1915, still raining. That's basically good for the gunships, which can bring quite a bit of firepower in, especially on the Commonwealth side. What we see happening here is that General Townsend and the 6th Division are trying to capture Amara, which is defended by the 38th Division. And what I ended up doing, you can see some supply units there. These basically are Ford vans, and they are being used to, even this rough terrain, to get supply. And these supply units can be used to keep units in, nominal supply, but they can also be expended if they are used in combat. And what do they do in combat? Well, they allow the attacker to fire at full strength. If you don't expend apply depot, your attack strength is halved. And it's the same thing with the defender. If the defender wants to defend at full strength, they need to expend a supply unit. And so supply ends up being the lifeblood of this game. At least you've got to maintain parity with the other side. We also notice the air units are being used again. Anyway, even though the airplanes don't get through again, what does end up happening is that the Commonwealth manages a breakthrough here at Amara. It's turn 9, July 1915, and it's the dry season, so what we're finding is the Tigris is getting a little bit more shallow, so it's going to be difficult for the gunboats to operate without the chance of running aground. But what we have happening here, we've seen how the Commonwealth 6th Division has captured Amara. They've got some supply along, and we also see the Mesopotamian Expeditionary Force headquarters has moved up to try to keep a line of communications open to the 6th Division. And the Amara Cavalry Brigade has been driven back. It's kind of in that swamp area, and we'll notice it is out of command, so that has some penalties. So things are still going fairly well for the British player here. Also in this picture, you see a steamer, and I can't remember if I've talked about this before, but basically steamers, they are not, they're not any chances really of them getting hung up, but they can be blocked if gunboats get hung up ahead of them. But they have the ability not to combat, but to carry units. So a steamer can carry 1 unit. And you'll notice the movement rate's 30 hex sides along the Tigris River in this case. So those are valuable things to have. And we might remember 2 of the Turkish steamers were sunk in some of the opening battles. We now go to turn 10. This is August of 1915, dry season still. And this is a different part of the battlefield that I haven't been showing too much of. This is on the left side of the map. You can see we're in the Euphrates River here now, not the Tigris. And that is because there is a location here under Turkish control that the British want control over, and that is Nasiriyah. And what we see is a brigade of the 1st Arab Brigade from the Turks, and they are holding this area. They do have some trenches set up here, but they're out of command, and so they're a relatively weak force. So we've got the 2nd Corps headquarters is kind of doing this operation. You see the 6th Cavalry Brigade is in there, and the 12th Division is coming up from the rear here. So I did use some airplanes. The British have a stack there of 4 airplanes to bomb Nasiriyah, and there are no Turkish fighters because they're out of range. The headquarters is out of range, so they really can't be activated to get all the way over here. So those 4 bombers are able to lay down 4 additional combat factors when we're resolving this combat. And also, you'll notice I have a number of gunships here. The 10th, there are 10 gunships, and on the top there you see HMS Comet and Pelly. Each ship adds 1 to the combat strength. So each counter is 2 ships. They're going to add 2 combat factors. So you can see from this picture that Nasiriyah is not going to last too long, and the British will get 1 victory point if they capture that. Also, back on the Tigris, during turn 10, we have the Mesopotamian Expeditionary Force and the 6th Division are continuing to move up the Tigris River, and the 6th Infantry Division is primarily the attack unit here, and they strike at the Turkish cavalry here just east of a little village of Sanuat. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but that's what I have. And the dot that you see there marking it is it means it's a town. There's also a little fortification symbol in there, so it's a fortified area. If somebody gets in there, it's not fortified, it's a trench, is what that represents. And you'll see also that it's a track, not really a road, but it's a track that kind of runs along the Tigris, particularly on the east side of it here. So this is kind of what's happening on the Tigris in August of 1915. Basically, these cavalry units are just being speed bumps and trying to stop the British, make them launch an attack, move back a little bit, give a little ground, and eat up time and try to attenuate the British. Anyway, that is the end of turn 10. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned if you'd like to see more videos from this game.